What is up, folks at home? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna head out there and we're gonna talk about one of my favorite patterns during the spawn and the post-spawn time period, which is fishing sand spots. If you have a natural lake and you get all this junk in the water like we have here, sand spots can be the ticket to a great day on the water. So let's head out there. Let's go underwater. Let's talk about the baits that I use to fish these. Let's talk about locations where sand spots are and talk about how we target bass in this pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn phase of fishing. We'll see you out there. It's a good one, real good one. Oh wow, yes sir, look at that one. Folks, there's not a lot you can do when you're fishing this kind of cover. You got moss, you got weeds everywhere, but where you can find those sand spots are right out there offshore where that grass kind of ebbs and flows. You can find a lot of good spots doing that. So guys, when I'm looking for sand spots, I'm gonna go to Omnia and I'm gonna pull up my Pro Map layers, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up these C-Map, social bottom hardness, and social vegetation tabs. And let's look at Chapman Lake right here. And when I'm looking at vegetation, these are the kind of spots that I want to look for in terms of sand spots. Right here is a nice big hole in the vegetation where bass are going to congregate this time of the year. The spring has been up and down and it's been weird, and the bass are going to spawn offshore now. They're going to spawn on these harder spots offshore, but what I'm talking about sand spots, here's a perfect example right here in 6 to 8 foot of water. There's no vegetation here. That's going to be a sand spot. That's going to be a sand spot. And if you look through these places, there's another sand spot. Those are places where bass are going to congregate this time of the year. Let's check that social bottom hardness. You can see hard spot, hard spot, hard spot, hard spot. These are places that are going to be fish magnets this time of the year. All you have to do is find the spots in the right depth zone and you're going to be in business. Let's look up here on the north side of Chapman Lake. Yep. Bingo, we got a sand spot right here, perfect spot. We're gonna have another one back here in the back, perfect spot. These are just areas that are gonna congregate bass, a nice big open flat right here. That's an area where you're going to find these fish. Now let's talk about what baits we use to hit those spots. So when you're fishing sand spots, this is the kind of bottom composition you're gonna get. A lot of shells, a lot of crushed rock, maybe some brush, maybe some wood, different things that are in there. But the biggest thing you want to focus on at first is bottom contact baits. So here's a 4.5 inch rattle worm in green pumpkin black flake, and I have it on a Woo Tungsten 1/8 ounce head. And it's a screw lock head, and what I really like about this is that tungsten head gives me a lot of feel. One of the biggest things that you can do on these sand spots is find where the shells are and where the rock veins are in these sand spots, because that's where the bass are going to be. It's perfect nesting material, but that's where the bass are going to be. Whenever you feel that crunch of that tungsten under there, you want to slow down and really milk that area. The rattle worm does a great job having a rattle in it, but still being subtle and able to feel that bottom contact. Next up here, we have the Z-Man Gobius. I really like heavy swim baits on sand spots because you see here, bottom contact is everything. A lot of time these bass sit in these sand spots and wait for meals to swim in. And I find that these bottom contact swim baits, you reel it over the top of the grass and you let it fall in the sand spot, and then you can work it through there. They are going to get inhaled by fish because they're realistic, but also because they are exactly what bass are sitting in there looking to ambush. These sand spot consistencies a lot of times are going to hold 10 to 15 fish in the outskirts, and they're going to eat things that swim into the middle. And these baits, even though they fish like jigs, they look like bait fish, right? Smallmouth on Max and Cucky are notorious for me for eating these baits on sand spots and vegetation clearance zones where the weeds have either been sprayed back or they've died back. those fish use those points naturally to ambush. The Gobius here is going to do a great job of getting bit. It's one of those new baits in this lineup to kind of compete against the Dark Sleeper. It's a good look. It's got a real subtle tail kick. Here's a bait with a bigger tail kick. Here's the Savage Gear Structure Gill. I really like them because they have different colors. It's a bigger profile, but this is a lighter bait. It falls slower. It has a bigger tail action and wobble on it. I really like the red tail on this tilapia colored bait. It gives it a nice little pop. Smallmouth really enjoy that. Largemouth also really enjoy eating this bait. It has a good feel on it, and you can feel the bottom. You want to fish this bait exactly like you would fish a jig through these sand spots and areas, right? Sometimes these areas are 30 feet by 30 feet. Other times they're 5 feet by 5 feet. These realistic swim baits falling in the area, sitting on the bottom, they look like the real thing. You can fish them as fast or slowly as you need to, and it's a real advantage to you to be able to fish something that's completely weedless. As you see all this stuff on the bottom here in this sand spot, this bait is completely weedless and allows you to fish it effectively through this area without getting all that snot hung up on it. And it's just a great presentation that fish don't see a lot of. You can see the fish here on the edges of the sand spot kind of hanging out. There's some brush in there. Anything that's weedless is going to be a great advantage, right? And fish don't see it. Now, if I'm around bigger fish, I am going to pick up this Missile Baits quiver worm. And this is a 6.5 inch bait, Nico rigged here with a #1 VMC Finesse Nico and a Woo Tungsten Pagoda weight in the inside of it. And let me tell you, this bait looks fantastic. You can really slow this down, get a lot of good action out of it. And I find that a Nico rig bait is going to excel here. It's got a nice gliding fall. It's got a sick action on the bottom. It's one of these new baits that was specifically designed to work well in a situation just like this. I cannot wait to fish this bait under docks and under big overhanging vegetation mats because it falls through great and it's going to look great in a sand spot. Plus, you can fish this bait on pretty much the same piece of real estate for a long time, twitching it and moving it, and it really has a good undulating fall, but at the same time it's going to fish weedless. Most Nico rigs do. You're keeping that hook point up out of the cover if you do happen to get in it, and this is a great way to present a bait that bass don't normally see. If you Texas rig this bait, it's going to fall on the bottom. If you rig this bait and don't have an exposed hook, you got a less good of a hookup ratio. Next up, we have the Geekrack Bellows Gill. This is the 2.8 and the 2.5 inch version, and this bait is amazing. I've caught a lot of fish on this. Here it is on a drop shot. I really like a drop shot if fish are suspended in the sand spots in 8 to 10 foot of water. That drop shot keeps it up off the bottom. Drop shots are simply going to catch fish everywhere. Out in my pond, I have a known sand spot. Let's see what happens when you run that Geekrack through it. Real good one. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. This one's pulling drag on me. This one is angry, angry. Don't go under the boat. Oh yeah, this is a big one. Come here, come here. Yes, sir. Look at that one. Absolute chunk. If there's a lot of snot grass around, another great way to rig this quiver worm is on a drop shot. It keeps it up out of that bottom muck if you don't like the Nico rig. This gives it a lot more action if the fish are suspended in those grass clumps or suspended on the edges. This is a great way to target them. I love a drop shot. A drop shot is just a way that you're going to get a lot of fish to commit, and it's a way that you can present a bait that a lot of guys don't normally use. A lot of guys think drop shot, it has to be vertical fishing, smallmouth, deep water. No, you can cast a drop shot anywhere and catch fish because it's going to present that bait in a natural way. You can do it as active or as passive as you want to. Quiver worm is a great way to get a bigger bite as well, along with the Geekrack. It's one of those baits that I turn to when you're looking for a big bite from a bigger than average fish. It's a great way to upgrade your stringer at the end of a tournament. Awesome bait, awesome action. Hope you guys learned something today. Hope the underwater footage was great. Those dark sleepers, those Gobius baits, those jig style swim baits, inched across sand spots are going to get bit. I've caught so many fish on those. I've wore the paint off of some lures doing that. Carolina rig is a great option. That quiver worm by Missile Baits, another fantastic option. This is where Nico baits are going to shine. This is where something with a vertical fall that can still have a presence in there is going to shine, right? Sand spots are key this time of year for me. If you can find them, you can do a lot of damage on a sand spot, right? They're a great way to contact fish. They're a great way to fish the slop but not fish it. There's a lot of different ways to do it, finesse jigs, things like that. There's a lot of different options. Finding them is always 90% of the battle. If you guys like what's happening on the channel right now, give us a like, give us a subscribe, let us know what we can do better. Let us know what baits and videos you want to see in the future. Thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.